You're watching the Sporting Time Show with host Doug Thompson. Sponsored by Jewelry Barn and Pawn Shop.
Good evening and welcome to the Sporting Time Show. I am Doug Thompson. Thank you for spending a few minutes of your Saturday evening with me. Well, we have got a packed show tonight. We are in the midst of 4th Region basketball, and one of the best players in the state of Kentucky is the 4th Region Player of the Year and also Mr. Kentucky basketball candidate from Bowling Green High School, Turner Buttrey. Turner, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
That's a lot of accolades right there. Plus, you're going to EKU, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, congratulations on that. I'm a fan of yours, and I'm just going to say it. I'm a fan of Turner Buttrey's. I love watching you play, the intensity that you have. Where did that come from?
I think it just came from when my dad was a head coach. My 8th grade, since I was born up until my 8th grade year of high school, it just came from a lot of people telling me like everything that I got was because my dad was the coach, or I would never do this or never do that. And I think it caused me to play with just a chip on my shoulder, and that it just created one, and it's just always been there. So.
That's interesting. I did not know that about you. You've been compared, we talked a little bit off here, to Bobby Hurley and Travis Ford. And one of the things I noticed about you, and it's probably because of the experience, but you seem to really embrace the big stage, where maybe some players might be intimidated by 3,500 people in an arena. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think it is. I work really hard. I'm in the gym a lot, and so I think that when those moments come, that the hard work shows in bigger moments. So.
There's God-given talent, and then there's hard work where you just have to put in the time. Tell me about your work ethic as far as, starting when you were a freshman in high school and all the things that you had to go through. I don't know if you played AAU basketball. Were you a year-round kind of basketball player, or how was it for you?
Yeah, I started playing AAU. I'm actually in 3rd grade for Jeff Shepard, Reed Shepard's dad. And we had played with them all through middle school, and I've been playing AAU ever since. But I think, ever since I was really little, I've just loved being in the gym, and I've exhausted myself. My mom even at times has made me take off days just because I wanted to be in there so much, just because, I think that there's a big difference between talent and skill, and I think that skill comes with hard work, and I always wanted to be one of the most skilled guys.
One of the things I've noticed, especially this year, the senior year, that teams obviously know you're scoring 23, 24 points a game. You're averaging, so they're looking at you and saying, okay, we're gonna take you out. But you also can assume that role of distributor, right? You're a huge scorer, but kind of talk about how you adjust your game based on what you're seeing from the defense.
I think that a lot throughout high school, being at Bowling Green has helped in that aspect because, here I play with a lot of talented guys. Yeah. And when they just try to key in on me, it creates open shots for my teammates. And, if they're open, I'm going to give them the ball, and I trust them to knock down shots.
How enjoyable is it for you to be in a district where you have 3 top 10 teams in the state? You guys at the time were 8th when you played Greenwood High School. But, that's got to be really something for a high school student athlete to know that you're in a really great basketball area.
Yeah. When I lived up near Lexington before I moved here, I didn't really hear much about this part of the state. But then when I came here, it was wow, there's a lot of talent that people across the state, it's not respected enough. But yeah, having 3 teams in our district in the top 10, I had a lot of people saying around the state that we had the best district in the state, and I think that speaks volumes of just the talent here.
Yeah, it's amazing, and of course we're in the midst of the 4th Region boys basketball tournament. Of course, time of our taping, teams will have advanced. Of course, Bowling Green and Warren Central, different brackets, but on paper it looks like you two will meet again. We've got about 30 seconds left. How much do you enjoy that rivalry?
I enjoy it a lot. they've beat up on me for 4 years now. So yeah, it's fun. You know, there's always Coach Unsell is a great coach. He's always gonna have his guys ready. So yeah, it's a fun rivalry to play in.
Well, Turner, it has been a pleasure watching you play this year. Good luck at EKU. And thank you for coming in today and spending a few minutes with us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, Nate Metz, a professional broadcaster from Thomas Nelson, will join us right here on the Sporting Time Show on WNKY NBC 40. Welcome back to the show again. Thank you, Turner Butchie, for stopping by the show. And as promised, my next guest is the broadcaster for Thomas More College, and he just wrapped up a 14-game Mid-South Conference men's and women's basketball championship. Nate Metz. Nate, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Great to be in Bowling Green.
It's good to see you. I've known you now for a couple of years. You jump in and do all the broadcasting for us. I think you did all 14 games, if not play-by-play. You did 13 out of the 14, but you were there every single day. And I know broadcasting is something that is so dear to your heart, but it is a tough industry to get into.
It really is. And now the good thing is for everyone, if you want to get into the business, is that the barriers to entry are so low because everyone has a video camera in their pocket.
Yeah.
Now. They have an audio recording device. It's not so hard to create your own reels now compared to what it would have been maybe 10, 15 years ago. And I think that's pretty encouraging. It should be encouraging for anyone, again, who's maybe thinking about jumping into any kind of sports media or media in general.
Yeah, and you do play-by-play. And a lot of, being a broadcaster, you could have 60, 70-year-old guys that still sit in the chair and do professional sports as broadcasters. But, you do Thomas More, and I know you do a lot of prep work.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, kind of talk about that.
Yeah, if you're not willing to put, that's kind of the dividing line between whether you really want to do play-by-play or you don't, right? Is if you're able to put all of those boards together. And when I'm talking about boards, I'm talking about making sure that you have all of the statistics for every single player in the game, right? That's for both teams, not just one, right? You don't want to be too biased toward one team or just give stats about one team, but having rankings, having a little bit of color too. I know that you're not the color commentator, but as a play-by-play guy, you want to be able to lead your color commentator into other topics to talk a little more specifically about a player and having that knowledge. I know you do a lot of prep for these. You got to do a lot of prep for broadcasting too.
Yeah, and interesting, I know you have another passion. You have a podcast that I would have never guessed the genre of what your podcast is about, but it's nationally recognized. And just kind of talk a little bit about that because it's really fascinating.
Yeah, and so our podcast, and really it's become a network now, which is really fun to say, but it's called Stoveleg Media, and our podcast is True Crime Cast, which is Kentucky-based, but we talk about crimes from all over the world. Unfortunately, crime doesn't go out of style, which is, and they're going to keep happening, but we're going to keep covering them. And one thing that we wanted to focus on when we created the show back in 2017 was a lot of crimes in the Ohio Valley and Kentucky that kind of get overshadowed or overlooked by maybe the big, podcasts that might be out of Los Angeles or New York City. They do good work, granted, but they may forget about the little guy in the middle, and we wanted to cover that. Now, granted, we cover a lot of other things too, but on True Crime Cast, we make sure that we put a spotlight on it. And thankfully, other people have reached out to us and been very, very thankful and supportive, and that encourages us to continue on.
But it's fascinating because you're a sports guy,
I
right?
know,
And you would think you might do like, the top 1,000 basketball or whatever, but you, I don't know if you fell in this or this is something that you always wanted to do, but you talk about a network, talk about the network part of it.
Sure, and I always wanted to be a storyteller when I was growing up. I didn't know exactly how that was going to work into, but when you're doing play-by-play in sports, you're kind of telling a story as the game unfurls. When you're working in a true crime podcast setting, you're telling a story. So I think that stays constant. Yeah. The difference is I think it's just a matter of finding where you fit. And for the podcast network, Stoveleg Media, on stoveleg.com, if you want to check it out, we make sure that we give podcasters, when they come to us, and we're always willing to listen to other people. I mean, we are igniting conversation. That is what we want to do. And when we listen to other people and they have all of these different ideas about, I want to get into this, I want to get into that, I always tell them, just find your niche, find where you can fit in. And we have now, I think, a dozen shows that are doing that, from horse racing, which I know it's a sport, but it's kind of one of those niche sports, even here in the great Commonwealth of Kentucky, to, again, true crime, to politics, to, again, like a game show even we have, which is pretty interesting too. So a lot of different random varieties, but at the end of the day, it all works, and it's a whole lot of fun.
Stoveleg.com.
Yep, stoveleg.com, like what you cook on, and then the leg of that, so stoveleg.com.
Nate, thank you very much, and it was great having you in the show. Come back and see us again.
Looking forward to it, Doug. Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a short break. More of the Sporting Time Show in just a few minutes right here on WNKY NBC 40. Welcome back. My next guest has been cheered. He has been applauded. He is the 4th Region Official of the Year. He also has been booed. What? I want to welcome in Chris Sweeney. Chris, welcome.
Thank you, Doug, for having me.
You have been applauded. You have cheered. What a great profession. But then you've I've always said, an official, the best is going to be 50%. You're going to make people happy. Right?
50% is really high, too, in our profession, that's for sure.
Well, congratulations on being the 4th Region Official of the Year. That's a great honor. You've been doing this for 23 years.
23 years, yes.
And I got to ask you, what drew you to become an official?
It's a funny story, Doug. When I started my freshman year at Western, I had an old high school football coach, someone you may have known, Butch Gilbert.
Yeah, absolutely.
Butch Gilbert was my high school offensive lineman coach, and he's the one that got me involved. He was teaching a sports officiating class at the time, and he said, "You got to take my class." He said, "I'll get you involved with officiating. I'll get you hooked up with those guys. You can make your schedule whenever you want. It can work it around your class schedule. It's an easy A," basically is what he said, "and it'll keep you from getting fat." So all those things are what got me drawn into officiating.
Was it, it's, and one of my questions is, how has it changed? But did you have to go through a lot of training? I know that you're basketball specific, but the rules, have they changed a whole lot since you started?
Really, the rules as far as getting started haven't changed a lot. You take the test from the KHSAA, you pay your fee, and you're ready to start getting assigned. That's where you get the insanity started right there.
So, do you remember the first game that you officiated?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
What was that like?
It was a middle school game here in Warren County. And of course, at that time, it was two-man officiating, which most middle school is now. So I was fortunate. I was on the game with it. My assigner at the time put me on the game with a veteran official, so at least one of us would know what we were doing. And we went from there, and I was hooked, as crazy as that sounds.
I have so much respect for the officials and for coaches. I think it's just a tough task in today's environment. And one of the things I always wonder is it just, do you get nervous when you're in like the big games and it gets down to the last few seconds and it's a tie ball? I would just make my stomach turn.
I think that comes with age. Of course, been doing it a while, so don't get me wrong. When you go to a ball game and the crowd's there and it's enthusiastic, you get just as excited for the game as the kids, the fans do. I still get excited for that. But I think as you get older, just like with anything else, the more you do something, the more you get experience to handling it. So,
sure.
So somebody's got to remain calm when all chaos breaks loose. So hopefully we're those guys and gals that kind of have to hold our cool when everything else is spinning out of control.
Well, it's really interesting to watch, and of course, 2020 was just a total bust. 2021 was limited capacity in gyms. Was that different for you as an official to be in that environment?
The first year of our COVID restrictions, I would say is both good and bad. One, of course, you don't have as many people that are yelling at you, but the ones you do have, you can hear more so than others.
Yes.
But I will say this: once we have having the fans back,
Yeah.
I think it's so much better for the kids. The kids are more excited for it, and they're not getting cheated out of the whole experience. Whether your team wins a lot of games or whether they don't, you can go all over the 4th region, and I mean those kids get as excited about getting ready to play as any other game. So I think having the fans back does bring an element of fun back to it.
So we got about 30 seconds in this segment. Did you have to wear a mask when you were running up and down the court?
I tell you what I did. We had to wear, most sites you had to wear a mask coming in. When they got to the floor, they gave us the option, but I would have a mask during dead ball time.
Yeah.
And, of course, they took the jump ball out so we would have less contact
Sure.
during that year. So we took the precautions that were given to us. Did not have to officiate during game time with a mask on.
Oh, that's really good. We come back. I've got more questions for you. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, more with Chris Sweeney right here on the Sporting Times Show on WNKY NBC 40. Welcome back. Chris Sweeney, the 4th Region Official of the Year, is with me now. Refereeing the 4th Region, right? 3 teams in the top 10 this year. Do you get amazed at some of the talent that you have seen over your 23 years?
It says a lot about our part of the state that we can produce the kind of basketball that we produce here. I mean, when you think about, I guess high level, most people think about the Lexington, the Louisville, the big areas, but I would put the 14th district on the boys' side up against any district in the state.
Yeah.
As far as the level of talent, the coaching ability that you've got here, all great X's and O's guys and gals, and we're very fortunate to work here in the 4th Region.
You were here back in the day when it was the Fenton Bohannon contest where the fire marshal would have to stop people from coming in. I know how student athletes get all fired up when there's just a packed crowd. Is it fun for you as an official to be in that environment?
Absolutely. In those environments like that, every call's important, everything's scrutinized even more. But it's all in all, it's at the end of the day, it's a basketball game, and you try. Sometimes the less of me, more times than not, the less of me is better. So the less I can interject into a basketball game, the better. Most everybody in the 4th Region would agree with that.
Well, I know it's a lot of fun, and one of the challenges today is getting more folks involved in officiating. And I know KHSA has kind of sounded that alarm that we need to get more involved. Talking with Larry, the assigning secretary, was telling me that the average age is around 60. How do we get more people involved?
Really and truly, it's getting them involved. We can't have these sports without officiating.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you don't want to get to the point where we're just pulling parents out of the crowd to officiate, it's really important that I started as a college student, and it worked great around my schedule, and Coach Gilbert was really convincing in getting that started. So we have to be able not only to find ways to pull young folks in to do this, but also to keep them, to retain them, because I think once you get bit by it, you'll stay with it and you love it. You have to love it to be able to officiate at any level in any sports. So
one thing that I have seen, and this is our 18th year with the Sporting Times, is that I think you have to respect the officials. You can disagree with them all day long, but you have to respect them. And I know that that's such a tough line for some people. I've heard some really visceral things come out of people, some things that should not be allowed, and that administrators should be around to eliminate that. And I know that that's something that wasn't around when I was playing high school. Yes, they yelled and they disagreed and this and that, but there was a line that you never crossed. And I think that's a challenge that, you know, we as a sports community need to really address.
I think sometimes we forget that the guys and gals that are out there officiating, we're human too.
That's right.
You know, we make mistakes. I
Right.
make more mistakes than I get calls right. And I think when you realize that, and of course, I may be biased about this, but I think basketball is the hardest sport to officiate.
Especially
not only
in
from
this
a mental,
area.
from a mental part and a physical part,
Yeah.
because I mean, there's so much going on. It's
Moves
so
so
many
quick.
things. It's so quick.
Yeah.
And we don't get the luxury at the high school level of having to go to the monitor when we have to try to get it right the first time. And unfortunately, I think people sometimes forget that, you know, we're human. We make mistakes, and that's part of the game until we bring computers into it or robots doing it.
Well,
So,
you know, who knows what that's going to be.
That's right.
They're pushing right now. There's a big conversation about a 30-second clock in basketball for high school. Is that something that you're in favor of, or do you think it's a fast enough game we really wouldn't utilize it?
my only concern with it is, you know, in high school, again, honestly, if you go to a gym and you're happy that you've got somebody that can work the clock,
Yeah.
just work the clock, then you're happy to do that. If we throw in the shot clock, then that throws in another element. Will we be able to know how to handle that? I mean,
Yeah.
I think it would be great for the high school game if it's something that we could implement that makes sense.
That
and
would work.
That would work on all levels. And of course, there is an expense to that. Some schools will have no problem with that expense, but you know, our region, we have small to big schools, and some of the small schools, that may be an expense they can't handle.
Absolutely. Chris, thank you very much for coming.
you're very
And
welcome. Glad to be here.
congratulations on the 4th Region Official of the Year. That's
Thank
a
you
huge
very
honor.
much.
I want to thank our audience tonight for tuning in, and join us same time, same place next week. For Doug Thompson and the WNKY crew, have a great week. Good night.